Everyone thought she was just a night shift nurse, but that night everything changed. The cardiac monitor wailed as 9-year-old Sophie's heart rate soared to dangerous levels. "She's crashing, doctor," Miles shouted, struggling with the defibrillator paddles. "The pediatric crash cart isn't working. We need to call for emergency transport." But the night shift nurse, Clara, was already assembling an emergency pericardiocentesis kit with surgical tubing and a large bore needle. "This will save her," she said with steady precision. "I've drained fluid from hearts in war zones with makeshift gear." Sometimes, the one who performs the most critical procedures is the person everyone assumes just handles routine tasks. Welcome to Hidden Legends. Before we dive deeper into this gripping tale, tell us in the comments what city you're reading from today and share this story with others. Clara Bennett was 36 years old, her dark hair always tied back in a neat bun, moving seamlessly through her night shifts at City Hope Hospital as a nurse. For the past 5 years, she had been a quiet presence, barely noticed by others. Efficient, dependable, unremarkable. The night shift was grueling, understaffed, critical patients, and attending physicians who were often overworked residents. Clara's duties appeared simple: routine patient care, administering medications, monitoring vitals, and fetching supplies for doctors without question or praise. Dr. Miles, a second-year resident, treated her like a support staff member, calling on her for extra bandages or coffee during marathon surgeries. Head nurse Thompson gave her mundane tasks, restocking supplies, updating charts, assuming the night shift was less demanding. Hospital administrator Dr. Patel barely registered her, seeing her as just another night shift nurse. Night staff were often invisible, mere cogs in the hospital's machinery. Clara embraced this anonymity. 5 years of repetitive routines. Complete tasks quietly. Avoid conflict. Stay under the radar. Never hint at her advanced medical expertise. Because as she walked those polished hallways, she carried a weight no one could fathom. Every night, Clara began her shift at 7 p.m., arriving 15 minutes early to receive detailed patient handoffs from the day staff, easing into the hospital's quieter, high-stakes overnight rhythm. Night hospitals were different, less hustle, but emergencies hit harder with limited backup. This particular evening, Dr. Miles was visibly tense, demanding his 5th coffee. When Clara brought it, she accidentally bumped a pile of patient charts. Dr. Miles scolded her about the importance of patient records, and Clara apologized, gathering the scattered files. While sorting them, she spotted the chart for Sophie Carter in the pediatric cardiac unit, 9 years old, congenital heart condition, post-surgical monitoring, stable but needing close watch. Because Clara carried secrets, experiences no one in this pristine civilian world could grasp. Walking these spotless corridors, she hit a past filled with chaos, grit, and life-or-death choices. Clara Bennett was a former U.S. Marine Corps combat medic. Enlisting at 21, she served 8 years with 2 deployments in Afghanistan and 1 in Syria, stationed at forward operating bases, mobile surgical units, and casualty evacuation points where urgent medical care was critical. Trained as a combat lifesaver, she handled shrapnel wounds, blast injuries, severe burns, and organ failures, often without proper equipment, blood supplies, or stable power. She improvised life-saving measures with whatever was at hand. In Clara's mind, those relentless desert nights remained vivid, working under rocket fire during power outages, performing emergency procedures by flashlight. Every action was a test, every choice meant life or death. Clara's toughest moments came during those endless nights, operating under attack, using headlamps to guide her hands. During a brutal ambush near Helmand, Clara stabilized 7 critically injured Marines after an IED attack, using only basic field gear. She worked for 5 hours straight without pause, and every Marine survived. It wasn't luck, it was training, focus, and the ability to stay calm in chaos. That night, amid the chaos of the ambush, Clara faced 7 wounded Marines with multiple injuries and scarce resources. She didn't falter. Her training took over. The first Marine had chest trauma and a collapsed lung. Clara performed needle decompression and improvised a chest tube. The second had severe leg wounds. She applied tourniquets and hemostatic dressings. The third was unconscious with a head injury. Clara secured his airway and stabilized his spine. The fourth had shrapnel wounds. She triaged and treated the worst first. The fifth had cardiac issues from blast impact. Clara set up manual monitoring and 4 lines. The sixth and seventh had burns and fractures. She initiated fluid resuscitation and splinted limbs. Explosions rocked the area, dust choked the air, and comms were spotty, but Clara stayed methodical, prioritizing each patient's needs. After each deployment, Clara kept the details from her family. "It went okay," she'd say, shielding them from the raw truth, young Marines clinging to life, the burden of split-second decisions that decided who lived or died. Those were truths civilians didn't need to bear. In Clara's mind, those moments were etched in vivid detail: every wounded Marine's face, the weight of every critical call, the relief of every life saved, and the crushing pain of every loss. Those experiences had forged her, reshaping her at her core. After her honorable discharge in 2019, Clara sought normalcy, no need to explain her military past, just the quiet comfort of being an unassuming night shift nurse. This invisible role brought her peace: no pressure, no expectations, no constant life-or-death decisions. That evening, Dr. Miles was unusually on edge, demanding his 5th coffee. When Clara delivered it, she knocked over a stack of patient charts. Dr. Miles lectured her about the importance of careful record-keeping, and Clara apologized, gathering the scattered files. While sorting them, she noticed the chart for Sophie Carter in the pediatric cardiac unit, 9 years old, congenital heart defect, post-surgical monitoring, stable but needing vigilant care. Clara quietly mentioned to Dr. Miles that Sophie's heart rhythm looked irregular on the monitors. Miles barely glanced at the data, dismissing her by saying that advanced cardiac interpretation wasn't her role and there wasn't time for such detailed analysis. When Clara tried to highlight specific abnormalities in Sophie's EKG, Miles grew irritated, insisting basic monitoring was enough. Clara nodded respectfully and stepped back, but her focus stayed locked on Sophie's telemetry readings. Something critical was brewing, unnoticed by everyone else. At 3:15 a.m., piercing alarms erupted from Sophie's room, high-pitched, continuous tones signaling a life-threatening emergency. Clara rushed to Sophie's bedside. The cardiac monitor showed dangerous arrhythmias. Sophie's blood pressure was crashing, and her oxygen saturation was plummeting. The 9-year-old was slipping into unconsciousness, her skin pale and clammy. Dr. Miles arrived seconds later, visibly rattled. "What's her status?" he demanded. Clara quickly assessed. Sophie's neck veins were distended, her heart sounds muffled, showing clear signs of cardiac tamponade, fluid buildup around the heart, crippling its function. Dr. Miles tried standard resuscitation protocols, but Sophie's condition kept worsening. "Her heart rate's erratic, blood pressure is critical," he said, desperation creeping in. Nurse Thompson arrived, asking if they should prep for emergency transport. Dr. Miles noted Sophie was too unstable to move, and the pediatric cardiac surgery team was 30 minutes out. Thompson suggested calling the code team, but Sophie's cardiac rhythm was spiraling into chaos. Standard measures were failing, and Sophie's life was slipping away. Her heart, compressed by fluid, couldn't pump effectively. From the corner, Clara recognized the pathology instantly from her military training. Dr. Miles was overwhelmed, Thompson was out of her depth, and Sophie was dying from a condition Clara had treated multiple times in combat zones. Clara recalled the past 5 years of hiding her skills, letting others assume she was just a basic nurse. But now, a 9-year-old was minutes from cardiac arrest, and Clara had the exact expertise to save her. In her mind, memories surged. That night in Helmand, a young Marine with cardiac tamponade from a blast injury, identical symptoms, failing vitals, fluid strangling the heart. Clara had known exactly what to do. Her combat medic training was rigorous, preparing her for diverse emergencies in brutal conditions. Cardiac tamponade was common after blast injuries, and pericardiocentesis, a life-saving procedure to drain heart-compressing fluid, was standard, even with minimal equipment. This was the turning point. Clara approached Dr. Miles calmly. He snapped that it wasn't the time for nursing questions and told her to prep medications for the code team. "I can perform the procedure she needs," Clara stated firmly. Miles, confused, reminded her she was a floor nurse, not trained for advanced cardiac procedures. "I can do an emergency pericardiocentesis," Clara said. "I can drain the fluid compressing her heart." The room froze. Thompson asked what she meant. "Using a large bore needle with ultrasound guidance, I can access the pericardial space and remove the fluid. It's Sophie's only chance." Dr. Miles gave a nervous laugh, saying it was a complex surgical procedure, not a nurse's job, especially with a child's life on the line. Clara met his gaze with unyielding confidence, her voice carrying an authority no one expected. "I'm qualified to save her life." What happened next stunned everyone. Clara moved with surgical precision, gathering supplies from the crash cart, retrieving the portable ultrasound unit, and prepping sterile equipment. Thompson demanded to know what she was doing. Clara didn't pause to explain. She positioned Sophie, cleaned the injection site, and calibrated the ultrasound to visualize the heart and surrounding fluid. Dr. Miles, still attempting standard resuscitation, saw Sophie's condition deteriorating. "Nothing's working," he admitted. "How long until the surgical team?" Thompson checked her phone. "At least 25 minutes. Miles realized Sophie wouldn't last that long. Clara had assembled her improvised pericardiocentesis kit, basic but functional, with ultrasound guidance, sterile technique, and precise anatomical knowledge. "Ready," Clara announced. Dr. Miles, eyeing her setup, asked what it was. Clara explained it was emergency cardiac decompression to remove the fluid stopping Sophie's heart from beating effectively. Miles questioned its safety. Clara looked him in the eye. "I've done this on wounded Marines under rocket fire." The room fell silent. Thompson asked what she meant. Clara revealed she was a former Marine Corps combat medic, with 8 years of active duty and extensive experience in battlefield trauma surgery and emergency cardiac procedures. Sophie's blood pressure was nearly undetectable. There was no time for debate. The real shock was still to come. Clara positioned the ultrasound probe, clearly visualizing the fluid compressing Sophie's heart. With sterile technique, she inserted the large bore needle with exact precision, guided by the ultrasound. The procedure was a success. Dark fluid drained from around Sophie's heart, her cardiac rhythm stabilized, blood pressure began to recover, and oxygen saturation improved. "How did you know exactly what to do?" Dr. Miles whispered, stunned. Clara explained that cardiac tamponade was a frequent injury in blast trauma cases, and emergency pericardiocentesis was a standard combat medic procedure she'd performed dozens of times in far harsher conditions. Nurse Thompson, still watching Sophie's improving vitals, asked if Clara was truly a combat medic. Clara confirmed she was a Marine Corps healthcare specialist, with 2 deployments in Afghanistan and 1 in Syria, specializing in trauma surgery and emergency cardiac procedures. Thompson, incredulous, asked why she'd never mentioned this while monitoring Sophie's recovery. Clara said she wanted a civilian nursing role without her military past raising expectations or complications. Dr. Miles, still reeling, asked where she'd gained such advanced skills. Clara replied, "Combat medicine teaches you to do whatever it takes to save lives. Equipment shortages and tough conditions don't matter when someone's dying." Sophie's heart rhythm was fully stable, her blood pressure normal, and her color returning. Dr. Miles asked if the procedure would hold until the cardiac surgery team arrived. Clara explained the immediate crisis was resolved, but Sophie needed surgical evaluation for the underlying cause of the fluid buildup. When the cardiac surgery team arrived, Sophie was stable and alert, with normal vitals. The surgeons were impressed by the precision of the emergency pericardiocentesis. The lead cardiac surgeon asked who performed it. Dr. Miles pointed to Clara, saying, "Our night shift nurse is a former Marine combat medic." The surgeon regarded Clara with professional respect and asked about her background. Clara detailed her service as a Marine healthcare specialist, with extensive trauma surgery experience in Afghanistan and Syria. The surgeon praised her flawless execution, noting it undoubtedly saved Sophie's life. After Sophie was transferred for definitive treatment, the hospital corridors buzzed with a new awareness. Nothing would be the same. Dr. Miles approached Clara, apologizing for underestimating her skills. Clara reassured him he couldn't have known her military background, which she'd kept private. Nurse Thompson apologized for assigning her basic tasks far below her capabilities. Hospital Administrator Dr. Patel arrived to review the incident, addressing Clara as Senior Nurse Bennett with genuine respect for the first time. He commended her exceptional performance. Clara insisted she'd only done what was needed. Dr. Patel countered that her actions went far beyond standard nursing protocol, and the hospital was lucky to have her expertise. Word spread quickly among the staff. The night shift nurse was a decorated combat veteran who'd saved a child's life. The story became a hospital legend. Clara returned for her next shift, but the atmosphere had shifted. She was no longer invisible. Dr. Miles sought her input on complex cases, valuing her clinical insights. Clara welcomed the collaboration. Thompson brought her coffee, insisting Clara deserved a break from routine tasks. Dr. Patel highlighted Clara's name in the incident report, praising how Senior Nurse Clara Bennett's expertise prevented a pediatric fatality. Most significantly, Sophie Carter made a full recovery. Her family visited to thank the nurse who saved their daughter's life. Sophie's parents expressed gratitude for Clara's quick thinking and skill. Clara humbly said she'd used her training when it mattered most. The parents emphasized that Clara's expertise and compassion gave their daughter a second chance. Other staff began seeing Clara differently, with respect and admiration. They saw her not just as a nurse, but as a lifesaver, a hero. Young residents sought Clara's medical advice. Experienced nurses valued her opinions. Administrators considered promoting her. But Clara stayed humble, not seeking the spotlight, only wanting to help those in need. Driving home that morning, Clara reflected. For 5 years, she'd stayed anonymous, craving a simple civilian career after her military service. But sometimes, routine moments demand extraordinary action. Sometimes, hiding your skills ensures you're there when they're critical to saving a life. Clara leaned against her steering wheel, emotions surging. After 5 years, she could finally be herself, no need to hide her background or skills. Transitioning from military to civilian life was tough for veterans: identity loss, lack of purpose, underused skills. Clara had chosen invisibility to blend in. Now, she realized that might have been a mistake, not just for her, but for her colleagues, her community, and patients who could benefit from her expertise. Sophie's case was just the beginning. Her story spread through the hospital and medical community, inspiring other veterans struggling with transition, identity, and purpose. The hospital honored Clara with a certificate of excellence, a commendation letter, and a bonus. But the most meaningful recognition was a handwritten note from Sophie's family, a drawing from Sophie, and an invitation to dinner. Media attention followed: a local news story, a veteran organization feature, a medical journal mention. Clara hesitated about the publicity but saw its value in highlighting veterans' hidden talents and continued service. She began accepting speaking engagements at medical conferences, veteran events, and hospital training sessions, emphasizing that veteran skills are vital and transferable. Service never ends. Years later, Clara's career transformed. The hospital created an emergency response coordinator role for her, leveraging her military expertise. She developed training programs for veterans transitioning to healthcare. Sophie grew up healthy, studying medicine in college, inspired by her life-saving experience. She occasionally visited Clara, her mentor and hero. Clara found peace with her identity, embracing both her veteran and civilian roles. She didn't have to deny her past to build her future. Her service continued in a new uniform, with the same commitment to saving lives and making a difference. Clara's story isn't just about heroism. Driving home that morning, she reflected on her 5 years of anonymity, seeking a simple civilian life. But sometimes, the most routine moments need extraordinary intervention. Sometimes, concealing your skills ensures you're there when they're vital. Around the world, veterans strive to integrate into civilian life, their skills often overlooked. Clara's story reminds us, every veteran carries a wealth of experience and character. Sometimes, the greatest heroes hide in plain sight, waiting to be recognized. If this story moved you, share it, spread the word, and help these stories continue. Your healthcare provider might have saved more lives than you'll ever know. Service never stops.